Hi everybody, my name is Gabriel Radford. I'm the horn coach at NYOC, and I thought I'd make a quick video on how to get into NYO because this is my third year as horn coach and I've been listening to your really great auditions, and very often I've heard players who sound great and make a few simple errors that translate through the audition that end up not getting them into the orchestra. And I wanted to show you exactly how that worked. So I felt it would be helpful to show you how horn players are selected for NYO. I've folded this over so that you can't see the candidate numbers just in case that gets out. So this is from last year. You can see this is page 4 of my notes. And I have 4 candidates here. This is a pretty good list actually, and you can see that I've got comments, and this is the first round and the second round, and sometimes the comments are extensive, and sometimes they're pretty short. But you can see I gave a letter grade, and I suggest SL means that these people are going to make it onto the short list, which is the semifinal round and then finals. And so the semifinals look very similar to this, and very often somebody here, you can see here, I've written rhythm. It's kind of the overwhelming thing here. And some of them have the small comments. Specifically today, I'm going to talk about somebody like this candidate where rhythm was pervasive through the audition and it really kept them out of the orchestra. So this is where it happens. Even if that person had made it to the short list, which they did, they might not have made it to the final round. And in the final round, here's how I grade the final round. So I have these excerpts along here that are each of the excerpts from last year's audition, Mozart and Brahms and Tchaikovsky. And I just give a number out of 10. Again, the candidates are along here folded off. And you can see here, here's the highest candidate who got 73.5 is the highest mark here. And on the Mozart, 9, Brahms, 10, 9.5, 8, 9, 10, 9, and 9. You can see a pretty consistent audition. And then up here you see at the top here, second one from the top, 7.5 on the Mozart, 7 on the Brahms. This is pretty good. 7.5 on the Tchaikovsky. And then Shostakovich, Mahler, and Mahler are 5 and 5 and 5. 3 weak excerpts that really brought that audition way down. And then if you see another one here, you can see somebody that's really just kind of in the middle all the time. 7, 6, 6.5, 8, 7, 9, 8, 7. Well, these kind of middling marks is somebody that I want to specifically talk about that had a specific problem that went from excerpt to excerpt to excerpt that made their entire audition not quite good enough to get in. This, for example, could be a player that plays great, that hits all the notes, that plays beautifully with a lot of character, that just plays out of tune, or with poor rhythm. So I thought I'd go through each of the individual excerpts for this year and just have a quick talk about them so that you know how to prepare going forward and give yourself the best chance to make it through the final round. Exciting news this year is that Jamie Somerville is going to be helping me with this. Jamie Somerville, Canadian horn player, principal horn of the Boston Symphony, and look up his CDs, they're great. And he's going to be helping me with the final round. So this is not going to be exactly how it's done, but it's going to be very similar. So first on the list is the Mozart Concerto, and in Mozart I'm looking for clarity of articulation and intonation and a beautiful classical character. You'll notice for each of these excerpts I'm really looking for character as well as the nuts and bolts of auditioning, which of course are intonation, sound, rhythm. Okay, so here's your Brahms, and this was on last year's audition as well, and I felt like people didn't really very carefully listen to their intonation at these very important moments where we hear the structure of the chord being played, and if those partials are out of tune, it's not going to sound right to me, and I couldn't possibly give you a 10 or a 9 or an 8. It's got to be in kind of in the 7.5 range, even if you play great, if those chords aren't in tune. With every single one of these excerpts, I want students to be aware that, of course, I and any committee you ever play for are going to know these excerpts intimately. We've been studying them since we were auditioning for NYO. So if you haven't listened to these excerpts really carefully, it's going to come through to me. So number one on each of these ones, these notes I've made for myself here, is listen. Have you listened to the excerpt? Does it sound like Brahms 1? So there you go. The intonation on this is a very frequent issue that I want you to listen very carefully to. The second Brahms excerpt here, I'm listening for the character of your sound. Can you match your sound color from this note down to this note? For me and for many of you probably, that D, that horn D, is kind of a difficult one to match the sound color of the rest of the excerpt. Going through into the Beethoven Symphony number 9. So So Beethoven 9 is an excerpt that, of course, you may be wondering, oh, well, I don't have a great pedal F. How am I possibly going to get into NYO? It doesn't matter. I am not particularly concerned with how robust your pedal F is. What I'm looking for is consistency of sound, of excellent intonation, and do you know the solo? Have you really listened to Beethoven 9? Do you know who you're playing with? Is the intonation excellent in these first couple of bars? Does this all make sense as a melody? All of these things become a package deal for an excerpt. And if you're playing in your audition tape and you airball the pedal F, that's not going to be a major concern for me. Overall, I'm looking for quality of practice. Have you spent the time necessary to prepare an excerpt the way it needs to sound in the orchestra? So Don Quixote, I put this on here, NYO's planning, secret knowledge here. NYO's planning on doing Don Quixote this year, and it's a beautiful, beautiful horn part, and it requires immense control in the soft dynamics. So here's an excerpt that I want to hear. Can you play with a dolce, beautiful sound and quiet dynamics? Moving on to this is a bit of an infamous excerpt for low horn players. This is Don Quixote. I've given you about half the excerpt, so there's not too much to bite off here. And again, in the course of recording your audition, you're going to have moments of imperfection here. I don't expect you to be able to play every single one of these intervals perfectly. I mean, please, if you can, by all means do it. But that's not what I'm going for here. I'm looking for a consistency in your sound and approach that says you've worked on your low range. You've really worked on the skill required to play this excerpt. That's what I'm concerned about. Smoothness, the dynamics, and it's just not about perfection. Mendelssohn Symphony No. 3, third horn excerpt. What I'm not looking for is speed. Do you have to play it at the speed of the fastest recording? No, you don't. You just need to show me that you've worked really well and consistently on this, and so that you have it at the style, the joy that's in Mendelssohn 3. It sounds like Mendelssohn 3. So by all means, if it ends up a little under tempo and it's clear, I'm going to be much more impressed than I am if it's super fast and muddy. Finally, we get to the Award of Excellence excerpt, Ein Heldenleben. So I think one of the things I hear most often when I'm teaching students on Ein Heldenleben is, it's just too loud. Did not ask this excerpt to see how loudly you could play. I'm seeing if you can find the spirit and the character of Ein Heldenleben, and are you able to solve the technical challenges of the 16th notes? This is one of those things that you can spend a long time on and really genuinely improve on, and this work will not be wasted. It's the kind of thing you're going to need for the rest of your career. So please put in the careful time on the 16th notes if you choose to do the Award of Excellence application, and show me that you've put in great preparation. If you miss the high B flat, this is not something that's going to take you down 2 points on my final round audition system. So I hope it's been informative. You can always contact me at gaberadford@gmail.com if you have any questions about this audition or anything else for that matter. I hope you all have great fun recording your auditions, and I look forward to hearing them. Thanks very much.